You are listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers Podcast, TV show deep dive bonus episodes. These were originally recorded as videos, but technical limitations kept us from getting them out to you, so we have retreated to the audio-only format of a podcast. I have done my best to remove the silences from when we were watching scenes and chaotic background noises, but otherwise not edited the content at all for coherent thoughts. As with our regular podcast episodes, you can find these ad-free through our Patreon at patreon.com/WoTSpoilers. Well, Fire Phoenix, that's because you're doing a watch-along with the spoilers. Because you are one of our biggest fans, by all appearances. We've gotten a lot of really nice comments because of Spotify Rewrap, or the Spotify Wrap, or whatever the thing is they do at the end of the year. I know you hate Spotify, Seth, as a platform, but we've gotten a lot of very nice comments on social media because people have had us as their top playlist, or our top podcast, according to Spotify. So that's been nice.
It's been nice. Yeah, I mean, we do put out a lot of content, so it's like hours listened, Wheel of Time. Like, often, if you listen to the whole show, we're at the top.
Many thousands of hours. It's pretty wild, for sure. But then the comments that people add, it's like really sweet. They're like, really, like, I love listening to you guys. Keep up the good work. I've been obsessed for years. Like, there's like, those are comments. Those aren't just statistics. Those are comments.
Right. And the comments make a big difference. Totally.
It's very sweet. It would be nice if we got that from other podcast apps, but whatever.
Apple. I mean, we can always go look at the Apple reviews. Yeah, I should think so.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just, we are obsessive people, so I guess, you have to be obsessive to really keep up with us.
That's what it boils down to. All right. So I know I called it last time, but this time I think it's going to be shorter. I think we're going to be under 3 hours this time. I'm calling it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, welcome back to Wheel of Time Spoilers Podcast Deep Dive of Amazon's Wheel of Time Show, Episode 4, Part 2.
Because we learned our lesson and we said, there's no way we're going to do this all in one sitting. Let's split it in two. So we, yes, if we spend 3 hours on it, that's 2 1.5-hour sessions. No problem. Then we went for 3 hours for the first for the first session. So here we are on the second one.
Yeah, we're probably going to come in under 3 hours, but we'll see.
I think this is, not only is it like 20 minutes, because the credits are at the end, whereas the last one was like 35, but also there's a lot of action, and we don't necessarily have a lot to say about that. So I think this is going to be a shorter recording than the last few have been. But we will see. We will famous last words.
So we are starting with the party scene with the Tuatha on. This is a scene that I really, really enjoyed for its costumes and music and general culture building. There's a lot of fun visuals and cool character stuff.
No Cesaro. Yet.
I'm holding out hope.
They
haven't left the Tuatha on yet. They have not left the caravan. There is still time. We are recording this on Thursday.
Thing.
It might only be a few hours until we see it. If it's in episode 5, then that's only a few hours from now.
I mean, based on the timing, we're literally going to get off this recording and sit down at our TVs and turn on episode 4. So
more or less,
that's where we are. We wanted to get this recording done before we got a chance to see episode 4, so we could give our unvarnished opinions.
Yeah, so this is very much reminds me of like Oregon Country Fair drum circle rave, like somewhere in that part of the world of partying energy. I recognize this and I love it.
I went to a college called Swarthmore College, which was a tiny little liberal arts school in Pennsylvania outside of Philly. And they had drum circles, and there was a forest, and there was an amphitheater with trees growing up through it. And this happened. Not exactly with the clothing, but the drums, we had a bell tower, and the drum circles would form in the bot base of it, and the acoustics in there were amazing. And it was like since it was the highest point on campus, it would echo throughout the entire campus, and you hear just constant drum circles going on, which some people had less generous opinions about than others.
Yeah, there's definitely some people at the Oregon Country Fair who are dedicated to having a 3-day drum circle, and there are some people who really wish they would stop come about 4 a.m. and they won't because they're all on mushrooms. Yeah, so that's this scene. And I mean, the wild clothes is definitely like what you would see at Oregon Country Fair, except for Oregon Country Fair is held in July, so it's a lot less clothed.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'll see if I can get a good shot of just great shot of Egwene there and her smile and just that happiness of dancing. Everybody. Which
is her feeling, right, in the books. Like, she gets to dance. She spends all of her time dancing with Aram and talking with Ila, and that's what she's doing for this part of the story. And she's clearly been dancing for hours and is loving it. I just, again, the texture of the books in the characterization on the screen is... love it.
Yeah, the way I'm really, really impressed the way Rafe has puzzle pieced the show together in a way that every scene is legit to the books, but maybe it's 2 or 3 different pieces of different scenes put together. But this one is actually as close to the books, I think, as we get with the Tinkers and Egwene.
Yeah, and Aram swinging her around is like,
all of that. Yeah. the way he catches her, there's a certain amount of chemistry going on there.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Love the Perrin smile.
Perrin not wanting to dance. We've seen this before. The last time that we saw this, she pulled them into the dance together before it all went to shit.
And there was that Aram spin, which was just sexy.
Yeah, no, that is, there's chemistry there. I love it. There's a great shot of the drummers coming up. That we should definitely stop at. Oh, first they talk, right?
What was that confusion that she had there for a second?
She's looking for Perrin. Because Perrin, he turned and walked away, and next time she looks, he's not there. And so she's wondering if she should go after him, if she should look for him, and then she gets distracted by the pretty shiny.
All right, so the song and the lore around the song, peace and happiness, and Aram's skepticism about it is so point on.
Yes, I love that we're getting this skepticism from him, that it's not one death that shatters him. He's already on the edge of breaking off and questioning anyway.
Yes. Yeah, no, and they keep pointing that over and over and over and over again. Like, he's thinking about his Rumspringa or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But, yeah, the idea that the song, for him, is an abstract idea that you can never accomplish. But for Egwene, she looks around and goes, are you sure you haven't found it already? Like, everyone here seems pretty freaking happy. There appears to be music in the air. Maybe the song isn't one thing you can find, but an attitude. Maybe it's the way of the leaf and the idea of peace and travel and love.
Yeah. I love that she asks that question of him. Just like, why is this not what you like? Because I think a lot of us do look at the way of the leaf in that light. And we do kind of think like, man, if we all just followed the way of the leaf, that would be cool. If we were all hippies following the Grateful Dead, that would be really cool. If we all lived in a commune in the woods and grew our own vegetables biodynamically, that'd be really cool, right? We could take acid all the time. Yay. Like, this is, there's a lot of overlap. And I think they've leaned into that with their design of the traveling people. Hammer. Yeah.
So that's the first time we see Perrin using a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe in the dream. Have we seen him hammering on Isla yet, or is that?
No, that's next.
That's next. Is it Isla in the dream that he's hammering on?
I thought it was Lila.
I think it's Isla. I don't know. Maybe not.
I think you're wrong. But also,
yeah, that's entirely possible.
But also, he's hammering a wheel. And like the axle of it, like there's so much like about him and wagons and wheels and axles and all of that stuff later. Like, here he is with the fucking axles and all of that Perrin stuff.
Well, of course he's working on an axle. That has to be, I mean, the Sanderson stuff where he spends all that time working under the axle while he's figuring out the problems while, I don't know if that's Sanderson or not, but that while,
I'm pretty sure it's Sanderson.
And,
no, it's actually after she's back. That's why I know it's Sanderson. Yes, when he's having that weird post-Olympics syndrome where he's gotten Fayo back and now he doesn't know what to do with himself. And so he's distracting himself working on axles.
You find peace in the work.
And there's the honor. That is such an Aiel way of looking at it. It is so original Aiel.
And I like the way the through line of the sort of the way of the leaf and Jito connect in those ways, right? There's honor in the piece of the work.
When you find something that brings you peace, doing that is what brings you the greatest G.
So he asks about, basically, it looks like you've got some warrior scarred people here, and her response is, converts are the biggest advocates. Like, people who have seen violence know its consequences and often do forswear it.
I like that they're playing up between this and the Rumspringa, they're really playing up that people can come and go in this way of life and that it's not a one-way door into or out of being a peaceful person. It doesn't have quite the level of absolutism that you see in the books. I feel like the books, they have a much more black and white version of that. Whereas with this, I feel like there's a lot more like anyone can repent at any time. And we don't expect our children to stay here automatically. We don't immediately disown them if they choose something else. We wait for them to come back to the correct way.
My question is, do they practice shaming of anyone who leaves the community not during the Rumspringa?
Interesting question, especially if you come back and get, confirmed. Then, yeah. And I also could see shunning regardless when you are currently not on the way of the leaf. I could see just you don't exist. If you are even temporarily off the way, like you don't exist at all.
Because for me, the difference between I lived in Virginia where we had a community of Mennonites, which is an offshoot of the Amish. And the difference between those two communities is the Amish do practice the shunning. Right? If you leave their community, you are no longer welcome. In the Mennonites, you come and go however you please, right? And there's all sorts of relaxation of the rules because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, my stepdad grew up in Pennsylvania, very near to actual Amish communities, and I got to go back there and visit and, got the whole Amish thing explained to me. I got to see the Amish in their buggies on the road. And they were looking at me like I was an exotic bird because I was like 14 and didn't understand the concept of like style. So I looked really weird. They looked really weird. We were all staring at each other. It was very strange. But yeah, the whole shunning thing is special.
Yeah. And the connection between the Amish in Pennsylvania and the Mennonites in Virginia is actually the Shenandoah Valley, which is that valley that runs all the way up sort of on the near side of the Appalachians. There's another mountain range on the other side. But basically, once you're in Pennsylvania in the Shenandoah Valley, if you follow that south, that takes you right to Virginia. And of course you do, because geography, people across mountains.
Yes.
So that's the connect. So those communities are directly connected through a valley, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
and yeah, for anyone who doesn't understand the concept of Rumspringa, it's literally what Aram explains later about you can choose to leave and check out the world and break all the rules and just be yourself and not be sinning, essentially. And then you can choose to come back and be confirmed in the way of life or not. And after you're confirmed, then you can be shunned for breaking the rules and stepping outside. But like you can go on Rumspringa, I think literally translates as the devil's spring. The spring of the devil. So you get to go have a wild, basically they're saying spring break, devil's rules. And that's like a very important part of how like the Amish, sort out if people don't want to stay with them. And more people leave than come back. But there's also an arc in Orange is the New Black. One of the characters, that's her backstory, is she was an Amish who went back and got confirmed and then still got drug into real world stuff and ends up in the prison. And, you know, I won't spoil it beyond that, but that is her arc. It has to do with all of this stuff. If anyone here's a fan of Orange is the New Black, then that is fairly accurate to my limited knowledge of how the Amish work.
Right. And I think there is also a limit. Like, I think if you, like, took your Rumspringa and went on, like, a serious murderous spree and was, like, a notorious... like, the way of Leaf might be like, okay, you gotta do something to make up for that. Like, you gotta, like, maybe serve some penance before we get to just forgive you. But we see they do have murderers in the ranks, just reformed murderers or killers.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a murderer versus being a hired killer in this world would be considered different things, you know? It's kind of like same here. I mean, if someone was like in the military or even a military contractor, that's different than if you were a serial killer, right? You may have just as high a body count, but the circumstances make your ability to reintegrate with peaceful society different.
I didn't think about how we basically have our soldiers as paid killers. They go out and we don't. Yeah, they integrate back into society just fine.
Same with police officers. You know, I mean, like, we authorize people to use deadly force and we don't shun them from society for it. But we do shun people who take it upon themselves to administer deadly force. Generally, sometimes. Yeah, no.
So what we get is the story of her daughter having been killed. I'm going to zoom and get a good still so we can talk through this.
Just before you go there, quick follow-up from chat that Rumspringa is a rite of passage during adolescence translated in English as jumping or hopping around from the German word Rum, which means space in the sense of outside or outdoor space, room to roam. So running around outside the bounds. I was wrong about the whole devil thing. So thank you, chat, for keeping me on the straight and narrow path of actually talking correctly about things.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just that's one of those things where I bet 1,000 rumors have sprung up around Rumspringa. It's like in popular culture, it's a thing. Like, this idea is very appealing, I think, to like check out of your society and go have fun and party for some period of time and then check back in. The difference is you have to have a much more restrictive society than we've got.
Yeah. But anyways, now we're done. I just needed to follow that up because I was wrong.
Isn't that the worst?
Ugh.
When you're like, I'm convinced of this thing and let me say it in front of a bunch of people. Nope. That's not correct. I had a daughter. This is
basically the story of one of Rand's ancestors. Retold. That's where this is coming from.
From the crystal columns.
Yep.
Like she saw the crystal columns and had to make that decision. Is she going to pull the spear out and fight back? And the Aiel became the Aiel because they chose to pull out the spear and fight back.
Right. We are getting an amalgamation of two of the stories, actually. There's the mother that gets killed and then the son who picks up the spear. Right. Those are two different stories that we get. It's Aiden is the father who's like, no, like he has his daughter die and then he takes in his grandkids. Oh, so it's his grandkids. And then Aiden's grandchild goes to rescue his sister, my gran. And I'm forgetting what the grandson's name is, but he's the one that picks up a spear and kills someone. And then Aiden immediately shuns him. So that's a very important part of that arc in the Crystal Columns in Book 4. So those two stories have been picked apart and re-put together for her. That's her backstory, and she found a different resolution than the grandson did. But clearly, when we learn about the Aiel, you'll be able to say, oh, clearly that story happened to them, and they picked up the spear and went for revenge. A broken spear, mind you, a shortened spear. Like, they're setting us up for the Aiel backstory so that way they can shorthand it when we get there in, season 2.
What do you think about her philosophy of... I feel like there's two parts to her philosophy. One, making the wheel better for not necessarily my children's or children's children's, but for rebirth, for the next turning of the wheel. Like, that's a long, long time from now. And 2, the best revenge against violence is peace. I feel like those are the 2 parts of her philosophy that come together in this.
There's such interesting arguments. And I saw, like I said, I'm trying to stay out of discourse, but I did see someone say, maybe it was you, her casting. Only this actress could possibly deliver these lines without sounding cheesy.
Yeah, I don't think it was me, but I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, like, and I believe it because I have seen her play so many different roles that these are very cheesy lines. This is an incredibly deep philosophy that nobody can deliver well. But Mariah Doyle Kennedy, she
pulls it off. Yeah,
is so good. God,
I was worried about that with The Way of the Leaf because it does sound hopelessly naive and idealistic the way it's written in the books.
Yeah, but to your point or to your question, the 2 pieces of her philosophy are both profoundly good and sound to my mind because the first one is a belief system, which Wheel of Time is notably lacking. We don't really have a belief system or people that come from a place of pure belief. There's very few of those, and they tend to be dark friends or white cloaks. So this is
or Aes Sedai, I would think would be the other. I do believe there's a certain amount of belief in one's own power, like we are the church type situation. Sure.
And
that you have this divine power and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I agree.
There's no general populations with a belief. There's all these very tight groups with very specific organizational structures. This is the first time we've seen an actual belief system, and it is not religious, but it's kind of religious. And it fits within the cosmology of this world and really drives home the point that Robert Jordan makes at the end of every audiobook, that he wanted this to be about cyclical time. He wanted to specifically have that be a conceit of the story. And here's her being like, some of the people in this world actually believe that to a religious degree. And I think that's really cool world building and also adds strength to the second part of her philosophy that you pointed out, which I forget what it was. Fill in
that the wheel basically either making things better for the next turning of the wheel or revenge. The best revenge against peace is, or the best revenge against violence is peace.
Yes. So that gets into the application, right? First you have the belief system and the worldview, and then you have the application of what that means for how you live your life. And that's the part where people are going to get more hung up and more stuck, right? Because it's a very personal decision, how you deal with violence and what is the best revenge. But that is the question. I think that is the question at the core of how do we deal with violence is what is the best revenge? She has made a choice. Whether or not you agree with that choice, I still think it's the right question. And I love, love, love that Perrin is being guided through this process. We don't have Elias to sort of half-ass teach him about wolves, but we do have Illa actually walking him through like a philosophy discussion in a structured way, like a wise elder imparting wisdom from years of study. And that, I think, gives so much more structure to Perrin's arc intellectually with all the stuff we talk about when we talk about Perrin.
And you combine that with Matt's line, she didn't make weapons, she made tools. You know, like we're seeing all the parts of Perrin's philosophy and his struggle with the hammer and the axe, even though like we really, it's very weird to not see him carrying the axe, to be perfectly honest. Like when is he going to pick up a weapon? Is he ever?
I mean,
we've seen in the previews for the next episode, there's an encounter with the White Cloaks, right? And we do know that, like, you know, didn't he take, like, the axe? Or, you know, there's a whole thing with the axe and Valda.
Bornhald takes his axe.
Yeah, Bornhald takes his axe, that's right.
Yeah.
And Valda has it and stuff like that. And then he knocks him out and takes his axe back from Valda. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of, maybe he takes the axe from the White Cloaks.
Maybe, and then he hates it the way he hates the White Cloaks, and there's a bunch of like violence is White Cloaks is violence. Yeah. And Another life follow-up from chat. Apparently this whole concept of causing injury to any being at all affecting your future life and rebirth is pretty much just Jainism. That's apparently pretty much word for word how Jainism approaches the concept of behavior and harm in the world. So that very much fits with how Robert Jordan liked to draw from philosophies from all over the place.
Sanderson also wrote a similar philosophy in Stormbringer, that there's a group that believes we are all one of the same being, and harming anyone else is harming yourself, right? Like, since we are all God, and God is part of us, and we are part of God, and harming anyone else is essentially harming yourself. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool concept. It has cropped up many a time across fiction and nonfiction writers, shall we say.
And I feel like it has a lot to do with empathy, right? This idea that the other person is a person and exists and has opinions and desires, and like being able to empathize with that and being like, oh, if I hurt that other person, that's basically like hurting myself, someone else who's equivalent to me, right? Like that to me is, right. I feel like they're connected in that way, that over empathetic people can actually, be connected to this sort of way of the leaf type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skip that.
Yeah, I think you just skip. Next thing I have is.
I guess I did have a question though. How do you feel about her daughter being? Now we've talked about the fridging, right? But what about her daughter being a dead body for character development? I mean, she was never introduced, and it's a story of the past, so it's not exactly the same.
Well, she dies to make Aram break away from the Tinkers in the books, so she is a dead body either way. They've just changed when she died and who was affected by her death and how. So I don't really have an issue with it because they just moved her around. And I think it with Aram already having some separation happening, it's her death would be wasted on what his character arc is currently being pointed towards. So.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump to this a little bit.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff to talk about in this, both plot-wise and star-wise. So, yeah.
So, yeah, do you want to get a shot of the stars first
40,
and talk
15.
about 4015?
That's the frame I picked.
Our timestamps aren't lining up exactly.
That's unfortunate. But I wanted a shot of the sky, but they're looking up at the sky. Perfect. That's the shot I was going for. So, first of all, they're showing a much more realistic night sky than most movies. And they're including a galaxy. But second of all, I think they're showing our galaxy in the future. Very specifically. Because Andromeda is currently heading towards us. You can see it in the sky as a smudge with the naked eye in very dark sky sights. It's not hard to see in binoculars or with a telescope. It's a very or time-lapse photography. Very distinct smudge in the sky. It is hurtling towards us, the Milky Way. And it's going to crash into us in like 10 million years or something like that. 100 million?
Yeah, I don't know the exact timeline, but it's
we're way beyond when humans will still be a species. Like it's way out there. But over the next several million years, our sky is going to change dramatically because of the influence of, first of all, it's coming closer to us, but it's also going to start distorting our galaxy a little bit. The impact starts sooner than they physically cross. So there's some really cool animations out there of how the sky is going to change over the next 10 to 100 million years, I think it is. That kind of just, run the math forward because we have math for that.
4.5 billion.
4.5 billion.
We're not in the millions. We're looking at billions of years. So
a
long, long time from now.
Okay. Well, over the course of the rest of the Earth's life, there will be increasingly epic skyscapes to look at as Andromeda comes closer and closer to us. And then if you were to move to, say, another planet elsewhere that's not being destroyed by its sun and continue to watch, it will continue to get more epic. There's going to be a lot of star formation, a lot of, gases and ignitions. But I think in this picture of the sky, I think that it looks like some of those models I've seen of that collision being in progress. And I'm going to headcanon that that's what's happening, is we are literally, the pace of the galaxy is continuing forward, and we are that many years in the future.
I'll give you that. I don't think that. I think you're pulling way too much information out of what is a generic sky shot.
It's not a generic sky shot. No? I get angry at sky shots in movies, and this one didn't make me angry. I don't think it's generic. I think that they actually took 2 seconds to fucking make something cool.
Good. But I hope they did.
It's a pet peeve of mine, so.
Yeah. And timeline-wise, the sun is going to last about 5 billion years, and the collision between galaxies is about 4.5 billion years. So about the time the sun is burning out, the galaxies will start to collide. So, and Earth will probably be long gone before then.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of magic that allows humans to keep humaning for all of this time that I'm just allowing because Wheel of Time. But...
And so I love that Aram's just like, I feel like he's been frustrated all night. He's like, I know you like me. I know you want to get with me. Why aren't you kissing me? And then he's like, okay, so who is he? Who do you still have a crush on?
Mm-hmm. And then he respects that. He just goes lovesick puppy eyes and backs off. It's much less creepy than Book Aram.
What makes Book Aram creepy?
Stay here. Stay with me.
Oh, we still have time for him to be that Aram.
That's true.
I like there's a connection. I'd know if I'd lost him. It feels like the Taviran later when like Matt and Perrin are like, no, he's fine. I can tell.
Well, she literally...
Because I can see the colors.
Yeah, she literally thinks similar things to that in book 2, when it feels like he's just gone when he's lost in the portal world. And she's like,
that's right.
He's gone, but he's not like dead gone. He's some other kind of gone. So again, pulling straight out of canon.
And then her dreams come back when of him when he comes back out of the portal world and is back in this universe again.
Yeah.
So such a weird time when there was like, it's like a time skip when the dragon didn't exist in the world.
Just
like,
ceased to exist.
Yeah.
It's very creepy.
So weird. It's very creepy.
It's very scary. I also realized that the reason that our timestamps don't line up is because I was looking at the wrong one when I told you that time. So that'll do it.
That'll do it. So, description of the room Springer.
Mm-hmm. And I love the part about this that we haven't talked about yet that I love is the concept of that sometimes the wind blows the leaf far from the tree. Like that
yes.
metaphor is built out farther and actually takes into account the fact that this way of life isn't for everyone, even though it is like at a religious level, like everyone needs to stop doing violence everywhere. But there's more forgiveness for the fact that not everyone is there yet. And also, I feel like that is a sentiment that Egwene really needed to hear because she's having a lot of anxiety and doubt around having left home. And to hear that, I think, is really reassuring and makes her want to kiss him even more.
I like the way that they're having characters tell our Emond's Field 5 their motivations for leaving. The whole Dana and Matt, like, we're born into this dirt and like maybe we can go somewhere else where they don't know that we came from this dirty place. Like, that is Matt's philosophy. That's why he wants to go out and like experience the world. He never wants to go back to the Two Rivers. That's the dirt he came from. Mm-hmm. And here we're getting Egwene's philosophy from Aram. Sometimes the wind blows you away from the tree and you never go back.
And so Rand has yet to meet this person for himself. And Perrin maybe got it from Isla? I don't know why I can't say her name properly.
Yeah. Is it Isla or Illa?
It's Isla in the books. I don't know why my brain is not taking
is going
that.
Illa.
I don't know why. But
that's sick, Illa.
That's what I'm trying to not do. Yeah, I don't know. It's cool.
Oh, that's even a better shot.
That's the one I was looking for. That is 4146, more or less.
Are you? Yeah, it's perfect. They're right on there with timestamp.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's not just the Milky Way? It's just a low light pollution Milky Way. It's the band right across the middle. Like, that to me is just Milky Way.
Yeah.
I don't see Andromeda there.
I have not spent as much time stargazing in truly dark sky environments as I should have. I've only been to the truly darkest skies a couple of times and usually have not spent much time stargazing when I was there. So maybe
well,
I'm
you
just
live in a pretty dark.
I do. I live in
area.
a 4 on a 5-star scale of darkness. And I have been to places that are 5, like out in the Oregon, like Sun River, Oregon, is one of the darkest places in the US, actually. And it's very, very cool. But I've only been out there thinking about stars like once. But yes, I do live in a place where you can see the Milky Way. And I don't think I'd have ever seen it quite that bright, which is why I'm like, there's more gases igniting because of the incoming gravitational pressure of Andromeda being closer. But I might be stretching.
I would say it's just they're showing Caroline grass. There's nothing in any direction anywhere. There's zero light pollution. There's zero air pollution. It's just the crystal clear sky, and you are seeing more stars than you would in any of our modern skies simply because there's no civilization anywhere close by.
That's super fair. And we don't know if there being big like volcanic eruptions in the last few centuries changing the global climate. So there's reason to think that, yeah, probably the sunsets aren't even that spectacular. So you're probably right. I'll allow it.
No, I mean, I like your theory but the problem with circular time is you can't then have galaxies colliding.
The problem
and
with
stuff,
circular
right?
time is it doesn't work with science.
Right. Well, science assumes that all things proceed. Well, entropy, right? Means that the wheel of time
heat
can't
death of the
exist.
universe. Yeah. It's just it's a conceit that we have to allow ourselves to enjoy these books.
I mean, it's the title of the book, right? Like that's when the whole conceit is, the wheel of time is a wheel of time. Okay, you got me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't argue with that.
All right. Well, now we're being given a picture from Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, that shows an utterly sci-fi spectacular version of the Milky Way. So I gave you guys all an astronomy tangent for no good reason. You're welcome.
What do you think about this scene?
It's going to really suck when Matt completely cuts Rand off later. It's going to really sting. This conversation in particular is going to really rub salt into that wound.
When Rand's like, I'll be there for you no matter what, even thinking you might be channeling. And Matt, it's not doing the reverse.
And I'm curious if he's going to behave differently when it is his turn to extend this forgiveness. I'm curious if the experiences that Sho and Rand Matt have gone through will change that, or if he's going to go straight to his book characterization, which is get the fuck away from me, you diseased person.
I think we're going to have a different Matt, because I think we're going to get Matt in the White Tower before the end of season 1. I think he's going to be cured of the dagger before the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think we're going to get nearly as much dagger nasty Matt. So then it just depends on when Rand's channeling conversation comes up with respect to him. So this was just generally heartbreaking, I think, is how I felt about this. There's a lot of foreshadowing and a lot of wump. You can come out to me, bro. Yeah, it has that feeling of a like.
I know you've got a secret. You can tell me. Please tell anywhere. Me. I'm safe to come out to. It's yeah.
It has that feeling to it. And Matt's look, like he's awake but not acknowledging.
He kind of wants to say something, but he also doesn't have anything to say. And then Rand in the flame in a box.
The flame in the void, and then it goes, of course, when he blows the candle out, that becomes the void. So it's the flame in the void, Rand in a box. Like, oh, come on, Ray. Like, he just saw that candle thing and was like, oh, yeah, I know exactly the shot I'm doing with that. Yep. The second he saw that candle holder. And the way that echoes, the flame in the void, and takes us right into the dream.
Which is weirdly and wonderfully shot and just generally creepy as hell.
The high contrast, I really like. The way just everything looks really super real. They really turn that up to make you see
overly real, hyper realistic.
Yep. Hyper realistic, yeah, totally. And like, there was no question, immediate dream. Oh, right? Yeah. The way it kind of fuzzes at the edges, the focus is weird, the lighting's weird, the music's weird, and all
and then
has
immediately
an eerie
is
sensation.
Surreal. So, like,
Perrin covered in blood.
Yeah.
With an axe, and we hear that noise. I'm trying to get a non-fuzzy frame. There we go. Rand's. They also are using a weird focal length to really distort Rand's face. It's like narrowed quite a bit from what it usually is.
Which I think is to really give you that sense of how unreal it feels to be him in this moment. But yes, it's very messed up. I love it.
And this is Emond's Field background.
I think that's Lila. Because of the ring on the hand, a wedding ring.
Is that?
I mean, and there's a shot that focuses on it.
Yeah.
So I really think it matters.
And just where he's hitting is the gut.
Exactly where he hit her. And yeah. And it's like the metal sound when it hits her body. Like that was like the creepiest part, aside from where her face is covered. The part where it sounds like metal when he hits her body. It's creepier than if it was the sound of, flesh.
And I love that, the way they smooth from hammer up, covering Matt, hammer and Rand, to hammer down, revealing Matt and Rand in the background, and Matt just wandering through the frame like a ghost in the background.
Yeah, you remember that leaked picture we got really early on? Really? People had to turn the contrast up. That was from this sequence.
No, it was from the sequence. We were like, whose hand is that? Who's it bloody? And
now we know.
And even back then, I think someone said, well, of course it's got to be Matt's hand. Band of the Red Hand, right? Like, that's why he's got bloody hands. But I assume what's going on in the dream is basically Rand is also kind of seeing what's going on in the real world with them, right? So I think Matt has woken up and is currently walking around and has probably found the bodies. That's why he's got blood on his hands.
I agree with that. He's connecting to what Perrin is struggling with, and also what Matt is struggling with, which is currently being possessed by a dagger that's telling him to go see this nice family having been freshly murdered, and then to go kill the Fade that did it to them. This feels like Rand is having dreamer abilities.
Yes,
like that's where this starts, and then there's Balsamon at the end. So, but why would Balsamon use the truth to make this nightmare?
I mean, I still think Balsamon's trying to figure out who they are. So I think he's like that, like, oh, that's who you are type situation. Like, you're the blacksmith. So he's bringing them in. So
kind of like at the beginning of the Dark Friend Social in book 2.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of.
So he's like the smith, the swordsman, and the
dagger,
the trickster, the dagger. Yeah.
The gambler, I think, is how Bors sees it.
Yeah. So there's that bloody red hands.
Yeah. And that's the look he has in the waking world when they find him in a few seconds.
Yep. He's absolutely like sensing the Fade.
Sleepwalking towards it.
And then Egwene, who's calling for him. What do you think? Do you think that's her also being in the dream? Or? I think that's his fear. I think that's what he's struggling with. If he's seeing what the other two are struggling with, what he's struggling with is a fear for what's happening to Egwene. And Balsamon does notice her in the dream in the books. Right? He's like, and there's this girl who thinks she's going to protect you, and it's laughable. And Rand's like, what? Moraine's not a girl. It's Egwene. And so I think that this is Balsamon's first inkling that, but in this telling, Balsamon knows that Egwene is potentially a target. One of the 4, 5.
But otherwise, that she is relevant to this one. She could be a string to this one if he turns out to be the one.
And CGI Balsamon.
We get a clear view of him each time.
Yes, he is definitely coming forward. It's no longer just a flash. It's like... And
he's not quite as cartoonish. Now it's like an actor in an actual mask and coat.
One thing I noticed, it looks like the symbols under his skin are moving.
Really?
Maybe not.
I don't think so.
No.
I was hoping they'd be clearer, but I don't think they are. Oh, he looks so scared.
Why is Tom coming in there? Did he hear him like yelling?
Yeah.
Is what I would assume.
Yeah, I think he heard him struggling in his sleep. And the horses are freaking out.
So then that fake out where you're like, holy crap. Did Matt just kill that family?
And he's standing like he's possessed. Like his posture is wrong. He's not himself. It's so horror movie. Like the flickering lights, the log cabin. It's like classic horror movie.
The dead bodies scattered throughout with blood stains everywhere. But, that was clearly the murderer who did it.
Oh, yeah. Matt is his motivations are being twisted. He's not being possessed by the Dark One. Plus, there's no blood on the dagger. And the Fade is way more likely to just indiscriminately kill people. Like, I have no doubt. It's a good fake out. I was really concerned. But then when the Fade appeared, I was like, oh, okay, we're good. It's fine.
Yeah. The black stuff on his face.
Mouth mold.
The death mold. He's getting so corrupted. Like, they're accelerating it, I feel like, quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I think you're right that they need to cure him of it in season 1, which means that it needs to advance much more hardcore, much more quickly in order for it to be the big, huge event that it is. Probably as like a climax moment of, episode 7 or something like that. And there's a comment in chat that Helga was running for the barn for help when she was killed. And that's why she's outside and stabbed in the back. And that makes so much sense. She was running for Matt because she knows he's cool. And, oh God. Calling you out, Catherine K. That was a very, very excellent mean thought for you to have.
And seeing how they're using the black mold as sort of coming out of his mouth, I can see it's more effective than having like a white mist coming out of his mouth or something like that. Like having like, yeah. And like the way that corruption spreads, I'm entirely happy with that change. Yeah,
I don't like how much it makes me squirm inside my skin. And I know that there's a lot of people in my circles who are not pleased with the visceral response that this gives them. But... Yes. Aside
especially
from
the
that,
crawling out of the mouth, like the on the and the way it goes back into the mouth, like it's like it's a parasite that's living inside of him and just coming out to be like, and then going back in.
Which apparently, like there's a whole movie franchise that's the whole shtick. Venom, I guess that's a thing. I don't like it. Every trailer I see gives me the heebie-jeebies, but it's so effective here. So effective as a storytelling technique. I super approve, even though it makes me like want to die.
No blood on the blade.
And though, again, his posture is not him. That's not how Matt moves. That's how the dagger is making him move.
The dagger. Yeah, totally.
But it's also, I am a deadly assassin from a force as dark as you, motherfucker, and I will stab you through your eyeless face. That's not Matt. Matt's a farm boy who runs away screaming. This is Arid Hall coming back to life and scaring the shit out of this Fade. That's why the Fade is hiding. The Fade's like, no, don't see me. I'm not here.
And only after he says, I see you, does it pop out. Oh, just, that was awesome. That ever so... The way they faded that fade in, whatever. And
that's the little bit they had on that huge 3D thing on the Piccadilly Square, like a board with like Moraine channeling, and they reused that move here, and it's so creepy. It's so creepy.
So the chat had a good point. If Matt was covered in white fog, it would look like he's vaping. It's like white fog coming out of his mouth.
Remember that picture we found of Barney Harris with the smoke coming out of his mouth?
Oh, yeah.
They probably saw that and they were like, we got to go with black mold. No, we can't do the fog. That's not going to work.
But yeah, the way the faded in, really, that the whole like, oh, it wasn't Matt, the relief, but at the same time the terror, like, the emotional beats that he hit were good. If anything, I would say it was just a real, like, so fast that I didn't have a chance to like really be as shocked as I wanted to be. But
yeah.
Tom throws the dagger, and the Fade
instantly throws a dagger.
Nice. And disappears, and then the Fade dodges by going back into the shadows, and then appears at the bottom of the stairs without appearing to cross the intervening space.
Yes, I was wondering if it was just fast, or it's doing its shadow hopping trick. Yes.
Yep, it just comes out of the shadows at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh god, that'd be a really cool move for like a D&D character. There probably is one called like Shadow Step or something. And yeah, Tom looks towards the shadows first. Like, he knows a little bit about fades. He knows that the dark spots in the room are the danger spots. Because he's more than a simple gleeman. Remember when we saw this shot in the trailer and we couldn't tell who it was? It was Tom!
It was Tom. And I think Tom was definitely, we were like, oh yeah, fighting a Fade close up.
Yeah, we guessed it was Tom, but we were right.
And we're like, but it's not in a city. So yeah, it's obviously they're changing a lot of the locations of the events. So that's one of the things that I didn't realize is just how much they were going to change where things happen in the trailers.
Mm-hmm. And he kicks it hard.
That kick. He kicks it hard. He kicks it, slides. I wonder if that's, maybe it's not that super, maybe it's not like that physical. Maybe they're a little like.
Not according to Borderlander warriors.
I know. Yeah.
I think Tom's just a badass. And probably the Fade's also surprised that they're fighting back as effectively as they are.
Probably.
It's a little scared. It's a little off balance. Maybe Tom just got lucky. He rolled a nat 20 on that kick. And then he saves them. He sacrifices
He opens
himself.
the door. It's so fast. I'm just like, after every move, I'm pausing just to be like, see what's going on. Love that.
Yes.
The catching the dagger out of midair, because we're going to see, I can't wait to see, like, Matt do that.
Right. And I mean, and that's how you know it's fast. Is a throwing knife is one of the fastest weapons. So if you catch the blade out of the air and you're not, plus, I mean, that's how you know it's a supernatural dangerous person. If Matt does that, we will know he's a supernatural dangerous person, which he is as Odin.
And we assume here that the Fade does not kill Tom, just like in the books. That he knocks him out of the way and goes after the boys.
I
and
refuse
Tom
to think that they would kill Tom. That seems ridiculous. You don't introduce him and then cut him. That's dumb. Also, it sets us up for Moraine coming back later because she's definitely gonna die.
Right. I guess my biggest complaint is just how little Tom we got. I want more Tom.
Yeah, no, I here and gone.
I want more music. Yeah, I would have loved to see him sing another song in the Grinwells.
One more song would have been really nice.
Maybe it's a cutscene or something.
I hope so.
And yeah, mid-fight we cut away, and that's the last we see.
Yeah, there's like a knife stuck in the wall. That's the last.
Because I think he threw that one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like Tom has now run out of knives, and now he's got to go to hand, and you would assume he's gonna die because that's when the boys cut away. The only difference is there's no him screaming and there's no flash of blue light.
Yeah, there's no run. Yes, the blue light flash. So doesn't appear to be any power wrought versus Thakandar blade blue sparks.
I bet we get that later once our heroes have leveled up and we need some more like high level artifacts. You know, I bet we get that, but not now. No, they're not going with that. But yeah, then they run away, and Tom definitely lives because the Fade doesn't want him.
Yep, so yeah, you can see her running away. Blade is definitely in the back.
She was running to them for safety. She was running to him. He left a little girl, and now she's dead. And also it's because he took her doll that was protecting her.
Who was the one who protecting her? Yeah.
Yeah, it's your fucking fault. And he loses the doll. Yeah, the doll getting left behind is just really rough. Like, the kid dies, the doll gets left behind. It's just nothing but sadness.
Oh, look, Lan. I wonder if she's interested.
And then she follows him to introduce herself at a moment of her choosing.
Nynaeve following Lan and tracking him? No, never happened.
And when she says, I didn't mean to interrupt you, it's like, you literally chose your exact moment. We all know that. And this is such a cool conversation.
Between Leandrin and Karine?
Yeah, this is a really interesting conversation. Good characterization.
I think it really points out Leandrin is black, obviously.
I really want to think so, but yeah, there's just the characterization on both their parts, the world building, the lore confirmation. There's so much, and I'm 98% sure she's Black Aja, but God, she's got me confused. Yeah.
I'm 100% sure. All right, well, yeah, tell me let's talk about what's confusing. Tell me when to stop.
Oh, it's the fact that she tries to burn herself out later. Here, it's just that she has really good arguments, and Karine is clearly listening to her, and she's just so in her capacity as a red that it's just, she's a really good pretender if she's Black Aja.
I don't at all. I'm like, no, she's definitely black. And the whole burning out thing, like, one, if you take down the Dragon Reborn for the Dark One, who cares if you burn yourself out? Second of all, like, I think she's just I think she really does hate she has that much hatred in her that she's willing to burn herself out to take somebody down.
It's just a little self-sacrificing for a Black Aja person. So I'm mostly convinced that she's Black Aja. But I mean, otherwise, I like her argument here, honestly. Like, she's making a really, really good argument that I think a genuine Red would make. That, like, we are burning ourselves out slowly doing this. Like, we need a different solution than continuing to cart him hundreds of miles. Like, this isn't working. That's true. But Karine is such a stickler for rules, and as we see here, is such an iron-willed person that she is lawful good. She is going to follow the law regardless of the consequences. And you get a lot of cool lore confirmation of world building in that argument, which is fun.
And Leandrin's argument kind of sucks because guess who just showed up? Moraine, another powerful Aes Sedai who to help you with the trips and to help you with
Moraine's likely to take off again. You know how she is.
Yeah, I do. But I really do think that Liandrin is making an argument for the sake of stilling, not out of an actual desire to escort him to justice.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying that her argument is very well constructed. She's not making it up out of nowhere.
She's a smart dark friend.
Yeah. And I think she's right.
But also the whole, like, if he breaks out, then we can still him, and suggesting that, like, you should let him out, that's a dark friend move, 100%.
It is very, very snake-like, yeah. Interesting point of clarification she's given us, that it's harder to hold a shield than to break out of it. That, I feel like that's something in the books that it's very much a matter of the power difference between them. And here it's being presented like a mechanic of the power. So it's an interesting...
Which again makes me... It balances the genders in power. We do not see the men being much, much more powerful than the women, like we saw in the books. There is this, we need multiple women to shield one man, but that's because breaking out's easier than shielding, not because men are stronger than women.
And he's extra strong because he's frighteningly strong, not because he's a man.
Right. Exactly. And so it does seem to be, and there's like, that is Egwene more powerful than him? I don't know. It's about the same, right? That whole, like, men and women appear to be much more equal in power. We haven't heard anything about linking when it comes to men. Obviously the women linked. We saw that in this episode.
That little questioning.
If you were to break out, they would allow us to gentle him?
Like, she's so good.
Yeah. Maybe he should be breaking out. Maybe we should
just toss a sharp rock on the ground next to where his bonds are being held, and he could die escaping. Straight Bornhold.
Valda, actually, is the one who threw the rock down.
Was Valda in that scene? In Eye of the World? I thought it was just...
No, Bornhold was the straight and narrow. He didn't want them. Valda wanted to kill them. That's why he was...
I thought, wasn't it Bayar? I didn't.
You're right, Bayar, not Volda. Okay. You're right. I was confusing Bayar and Volda.
You're right that it wasn't Bornhold. You were correct.
Yes.
You were just picking the wrong other awful person.
Which is why I'm happy they're combining what appears to be Valda and Asanawa and just cutting Bayar entirely. We've got Bornhold and Valda, and that's it. You got the good one and the bad one.
And then we can have Galad join them to be the reformer, and that'll be fine.
Right. That's a really interesting line.
Yeah.
And that's something I've seen they've mentioned changed a couple of times. The Reds patrol other channelers and other sisters.
Internal affairs.
And if they... Internal affairs. And she's like, you should be reminding me your internal affairs, and you're talking about breaking the law? Like, that's bad. That's why I'm like, she's definitely dark friend. Like, we've got she's a snake line. Plus the whole, like, willing to break the rules, even though she's the one who should be enforcing them. Like... Yeah, there's not to mention those cheekbones, right? You don't put those on a good person.
Those cheekbones are criminal.
Yeah. You know what I find really interesting visually? The braziers full of fire are very similar to the cage Logain is in. And so in a lot of ways, it looks like that cage is containing just another fire.
A fire that could burn the world down. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Not exactly the same shape, but that sort of similar vertical bars, fire in the middle, stylized metal cage.
When they need to breathe, when the dangerous thing needs to breathe. Why is he grinning? What's he hearing? What?
He has to have some idea what's going on around him.
Yeah, he has to. He is responding as though he can hear or feel or taste something. And there's whispers. And he's grinning it
would be interesting to know if his madness could feed him information he himself couldn't necessarily hear or see.
That's what it feels like is happening, is that the voices are like, your followers are coming. We've seen them coming. They're coming for you. There's something like that. It doesn't make any sense for his madness to know things, but Rand's madness knows things. It doesn't make sense for madness to know things outside of your immediate vicinity or while you can't touch the source, but somehow it feels like he's getting information, and the whispery noise, it's got to be his voices.
Or Leandrin sandbagging the seals over his ears.
She is the one in charge of that. So
yeah, she's like, oh, we stuffed his ears, so she didn't say he couldn't hear. She just said we put air over his ears. Doesn't mean he can't hear through it. What if you didn't seal it well? What if it's the kind of air that lets noise through? Like, Leandrin could be playing the game here.
I don't think she is, but I don't know what to think either. So maybe she is. I'm prepared to be betrayed by Leandrin, just like the girls are in book 2.
I need watching this whole thing.
Yeah, she's picking her moment to go talk to him because she wants to talk to him away from everyone else. But first, she's going to watch him be solemn.
He's also very careful in the scene to point out that this is the culture of the people of Manetheren. Malkier, sorry. Jesus. Yeah. The people of Malkier, without ever pointing out that he's the king of those people.
I noticed that he's just like, I'm just another Malkieri, just another random Malkieri. I'm no one special to the Malkieri.
No one special. So we still haven't had that reveal that he's the king.
We just got his name, but we haven't got an explanation for how his name says king.
The chemistry here is palpable.
Ugh, God, it's so palpable. It's so compelling.
I like the way he says my people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you know he's a king, then yeah.
And yeah, he doesn't appear to have his ring on, but I don't think
he wears it. I think he possesses that ring. He doesn't wear it.
I think when he pulls it out, he doesn't. I can't remember exactly, but I think in the books he pulls it out of a pouch, not off his finger.
Exactly. It's not something that he flashes around, but he needs a way of indisputably marking Nynaeve for her emergency breaking glass moment.
For all other Malkier out there.
Yeah. It's also interesting, this whole concept of like him doing a ritual and her being like, do you pray often? Like, again, bringing in just a slight touch more ritual and belief system energy to this world without giving us an actual like dogmatic mythology.
And it looks like the buckle that he had on his shirt is now on his sword by his side.
It's the strap that he uses to hold his sword on his back.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah, she speaks that sentence, which also impressive that she remembers it, right? Can you repeat that back after being told it only once?
No, but she used to say it whenever she was scared. I imagine that was pretty burned in.
Yeah, but the first time she heard it, right, was from her parents. And
I would not remember something told to me under those circumstances. No.
I wouldn't either. So that's actually one of the things that annoys me the most about like videos, movies like this, because like my short-term memory is so bad. They're like, okay, here's 20 instructions, bye, and then the person dies, and they remember them flaw. There's no like, wait, what did they say? Like there's always a perfect memory of those instructions, but I think that's just movie magic and shortcuts and stuff like that.
It's necessary for storytelling efficiency. You don't want the real world. You don't want that much realism in your entertainment.
I think it just bothers me in particular because I have such a short-term memory that I'm like, could you at least like show them jotting that down every once in a while? That would be nice.
But it is a very, what's interesting about this, what's awesome about this is how personal it is. her sharing this very personal thing with him, saying, I'm seeing you're doing something super personal. Let me open up and give you something of equal sacredness. And that is just, oh, the chemistry. Oh, yeah. And then he returns with, do you want to know what it means? First, she tells him where it comes from, which gives us so many questions about her backstory. And then he does the sweetest thing possible, which is not to tell her what it means, is to ask, do you want to know? And you can see her entire thought process on her face because she's amazing as she thinks it through and comes to the decision. And then when she gets the information and receives it, and like, it's just her face acting is just,
Why do you think she wasn't able to find out what it meant beforehand? Do you think it was just because so few people in Two Rivers speak the Old Tongue, and Lan just happens to be an educated man who speaks it?
I think so. I think nobody in the Two Rivers knew more than to recognize the sound of the Old Tongue.
Everybody speaks a few words here and there, but nobody, that was a long sentence.
Right. And like, there's probably also a lot of trauma associated for her with that memory. She's not going to just go around to everyone and be like, hey, so that time my parents got murdered and I was left in a basement. Like it's something she's not going to share with everyone. And why she shares it with him is because they're already falling in love, because we've already heard the song Mashiara.
No, I mean, the way they're sharing personal details is very much like that's flirting and getting to know somebody and being like, oh, this is my private ceremony. These are my private words. Let's share that with each other. It's a matter of trust extending.
And honesty, like the amount of honesty that these two have in this world of confusion and deceit and Aes Sedai doublespeak is just really nice and wonderful. For like, clearly they're getting a lot out of it, particularly Nynaeve. It's like one person I can actually talk to, which is, again, not canon to the book caution that Rand gets. So like, if you tell something to Lan, you've as good as told it to Moraine. Like, that entire attitude is something that they left on the cutting room floor as they rebuilt the story, which I'm super okay with, honestly.
It's what the last king of Manetheren said to his wife. I did hear that as Malkieri the first time I saw it. I heard it as Malkieri the first... Yeah, a lot of people did. A lot of people were like, oh my God, it's the saying of the Malkieri. We all knew what we expected. We heard what we expected to hear. We did.
Okay.
Because we were like, oh my God, Nynaeve's Malkieri? That's amazing. Her parents, yeah. I
know. I was like, that's a weird, stupid change. Now they're going to be like second cousins and like it's all... No. Manetheren. Okay, that makes so much more sense. And also why it's like... If he wants to hide his identity as a Malkieri royal, then quoting the Malkieri royals is a bad way to do that. Quoting Manetheren royals from like lore is more just an educated man move. So, okay, so now I've decided what that means. That means that she's descended from the royal family of Manetheren in her Two Rivers-ness. That's like they have said that in her family ever since. That is now her backstory, is that she's literally the long descendant of Manetheren's royalty. So she's a perfect match for Mr. King of Manetheren, or Malkier.
Yeah.
Manether
well,
Kier.
I mean, they're making a good point that she also has the part of her last name, Almira. So you got Althor, Almira, like these are the people who were the royalty, descended from the royalty of Manetheren. They just don't know that they were. They just don't know it because the All is just a meaningless part of their name now. But that used to detonate? No. Denote. That used to denote.
Huh, yeah. No. Wow. Dyslexia. That's fun.
Yeah. It used to denote that the family was royal. So that makes a lot of sense.
Again, they're taking what was implied in the books and making it real, but they're not actually breaking any of the important pieces. They're just fleshing it out more. Oh, that's so cool. Headcanon established.
I definitely want more information about her, the Last Wisdom, though. Like, we need to know what happened when she went to Tarval and,
being orphaned, and, there's so much more we need to know. Yes.
And someone was asking, Almira would be her actual last name. I don't think she would have she wouldn't have taken on the Wisdom's last name. She would know what her last name is. Yeah. I cried to this, by the way. This was those words, tear jerking. I don't know. They caught me. That was an unexpected cry for me.
Yeah. Her acting is just like, fuck, I'm in that. It's so good.
She's really proven to be a standout of the new actors. Zoe Robbins has really shown, and I think because she had because Power Rangers is not exactly the place to show your acting chops and range and emotion, that there was some maybe more skepticism about like her abilities, and she's really outshone the rest of the field, in my opinion.
Oh my God, she's so good. It's hard for me to say which one's my favorite, but she's probably the one everyone else is trying to knock out of first place. So
the amount of wonderful subtlety between Zoe and Rosamund Pike in the cave scene, that was great. That was on par with Moraine and Tom in the Gleeman chapter. Sort of the subtlety, the nods, the little emotions, everything that was going on between them.
Yeah.
That he did right there. That was very sexy.
Oh my God. They just went to like a whole other level in their relationship. And we are now all blue balls because we don't get to know what he thinks.
What is that? But that saves his life.
It's true.
Because Nynaeve's no moment is because she needs to know what Lan thinks about her.
Yep. She's like, you are not going to fucking die without finishing that conversation.
That sentence.
Yeah. And you know that line was about to make literally everybody turn into a puddle. Just like, we need swooning, we need smelling salts. Like everyone, everywhere, of every orientation was about to die from sheer swoon. And yeah, instead it turns into Nynaeve rage healing in a room full of people. The ward is so cool.
The way the wards pop.
Yeah.
Because they get broken. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think Leandrin sees the wards breaking. She just sees Kareen's reaction.
Correct. And the swirling noise gets louder. He's got to be getting information from his madness.
I like that. Don't worry, I'll save some for you. Very Legolas Gimli banter going on there. Yeah. How many you got? That one doesn't count.
I was reading a bit of the extras, and apparently they have a very long friendship as warder trainees. They have worked together as warders many, many times. So they have that Legolas Gimli rapport. That's not just this scene. That is 20 years of friendship.
All right. So I was watching this to get ready for this episode and never had a friend come over, and she stepped in about now in the episode and saw the final 10 minutes of it in the battle, and by the end of it she was like, okay, I'm in.
Nice.
I have to go watch this now.
Nice.
And when Alana drops the arrows on the soldiers, she goes, that is the most badass thing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
That was cool. The stopping the arrows is a little sort of fantasy generic, right? Oh, arrows get stopped by power. I get that. Like, you put up a shield, the arrows hit it. The dropping them on to the running troops and using their own arrows against them is just...
And it's not that she stops the arrow in midair. She arrests its motion, changes its vectors, and then releases it. It still has all of its kinetic energy that was put into it by the string.
Does it?
They punch into people.
She dropped.
I think that they punch into people like as though they were.
I think
fired.
she gave them the momentum. Yeah. I think they're stopped completely, and then she just drops them with force.
Huh. Well, I don't like that.
And yeah, notice she doesn't, right now she's just stopping the arrows, but then when they actually charge at her, her life's in risk and she can use it as a weapon.
I was wondering about her timing with that. And yeah, it's because she has to remain offensive until a man is rushing at her with a double-headed battle axe. Then she can do what she wants. Also, of course, Lan grabbing Nynaeve and putting her behind him is just, we saw that in the trailer. We're like, oh my God, Nynaeve's happening by now. And it's just, again, the conversation just happened where he's like, I didn't even get to tell her how I feel yet. I have to protect her.
Couple on the sort of on your side, we have a couple of warders that didn't get a lot of, and the green Aja. sisters that didn't get a lot of screen time or
yeah, we got,
as far as
there's
I can tell,
there's the little Asian green who we see with her warders a couple of times, and she does a couple of cool moves during the battle. But the black one with the poofy hair and back, we basically only see her in the background of scenes like 3 times. She doesn't get much walking or action at all. And then with the reds that are over your shoulder, we don't see the hijabi one doing anything in the battle until she comes in at the end and links to do the shielding. But the one that I named as Teslin does get shot at one point by arrows and then healed by a green. Maybe she gets healed by the green we don't see very much of.
I thought she was healed by the bowl cut. No, is it a green?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a green. And then I don't think we see the...
Are we missing one of
there.
the Aes Sedai?
1, 2, 3,
she said 7 full Aes Sedai.
4, 5, 6.
And I only see 6 in this shot. So who
Maureen's
is the 7th?
Yeah, it must be Maureen. Yeah. But she's off doing whatever it is she's doing such that she gets to go in and talk to Logain, which makes you wonder if she's somehow engineering things. I don't think she is, but I think it's setting new viewers up to be like, did she engineer this? Like, we don't know where she is right now. She's in between all the parties right now.
Yeah, so and someone's asking, there's a total of 8 Aes Sedai in the party plus Moraine. So there were 4 reds, 4 greens.
4 reds, 4 greens. That makes sense, yeah.
Because we got 3 and 3 out here, plus 1 of each in in the cave.
And yeah, warders that we don't get a lot of screen time of at all. We've got Ivan, who does a bunch of really cool stuff with his bow, where he's holding multiple arrows so that when he shoots, he's immediately reloaded for another shot. He doesn't shoot multiple arrows at once, but he's loaded up 3 and can basically triple shot. It's very cool. I don't care how realistic it is or not. It looks super cool. And I like seeing the other warders working with their Aes Sedai and like the whole battle sequence. It's going to be hard to talk about it as we go through it, but like...
Right.
Yeah, it's very fast.
It's the way they work. They have the actors working together, so the warders and the Aes Sedai are one force working together in defense and offense. Yeah.
So we recommend rewatching the sequence several times on your own to just appreciate all the different pieces of how these characters interact in this fight scene.
And Abigail here is bringing up a good point. I think you mentioned there were 5 Red Sisters when they captured the...
Oh, that man at the beginning who gets gentled?
In the first scene of the show?
There were 5, yeah. And
there weren't any greens.
Yeah, and we had Leandrin and I think Teslin and Bullcut. I think. I don't remember if we had the hijabi, and I don't remember what the appearance of the 5th one was like at all.
I thought there were only 4, though. I think we disagreed about that. Like, I counted 4, and you said there were 5, and I was like, I don't see it, but yeah. So that's one of those things where I'm wondering if there was 5 there, or if it was just these 4 that then met up with the 4 greens.
Yeah. Or maybe they had 5 and they sent one back to the tower. Because
and like maybe they took him prisoner back to the tower, even though he was
someone has to escort this broken husk of a man back to the tower for tax purposes or something. This bureaucratic red tape stuff, paperwork.
It'd be interesting to go back and figure out if there's just 4 or 5 Aes Sedai in that initial shot.
Yeah. And then there's, and I don't think it was Owen in that episode, for the record. Like that was years and years and years ago. Whereas what just happened with the man we saw get gentled was like a month ago, maybe.
Right. Or maybe, Tom would never have been able to even hear about it at that point. Like
that's years and years in his past, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just goes for it. And we saw that in the previews, this whole explosion and then them getting thrown out. We thought this was when Kareen dies, but we know it's later.
Like a whole 30 seconds later, but...
Yeah. It's not that incident. He just blows it up.
And you hear the voices get a lot louder. So it's like, okay, now, do it. Yeah. And we just got a screenshot that I think shows there's 5 sisters in that first bit of the thing. I think there's 2 in the back. I think that one in the back. Count the number of legs of the horses.
The second picture is a little clearer. The two in the back are next to each other, yeah. But they're at such a distance, I can't see much more than that's a red figure.
Yeah, so there's 5 of them, but no easy way to tell their physical details. But yeah, I know. So Logain does his super epic move from the trailer and just flexes and breaks out of the shield. It so is giving me Do Might As Well's feels. They're definitely bringing some of that forward just to give us a little taste and get us ready and seed the ground.
But I completely believe he was sandbagging. He didn't do any extra effort. He didn't they weren't distracted. There wasn't like someone didn't knock one of them unconscious. This is him just being like, okay, time, boom. Yeah. So I believe he's been sandbagging the whole time, just enough, pushing just enough to tire them out.
Absolutely agree.
By the way, the writing on those columns,
yes,
is in the old tongue.
Yes,
someone went ahead and translated it.
Good.
And figured out what it says.
Yes. Is it a dick joke?
Lore ipsum. It's Latin. It's generic lore ipsum.
They did lorem
Latin.
ipsum.
They did lorem ipsum on the columns.
I do not appreciate.
That was... I saw that and I was like, oh,
I mean, I kind of can admire the fucking balls to put lorem ipsum up there knowing we are going to look into it. Like, I feel like that's a little bit of a middle finger from somebody at us, and I kind of respect it, but also fuck you. Whoever made that choice, fuck you.
Costume designers.
King of Gildan.
And that's the King of Gildan.
He is now his most trusted general, and he will pay for it with his life when Alana blows his ass into a tree.
And we say Joram, I think, or Gorha. Oh shoot! Hold on. What did I decide this king was?
Joharan.
Because there's basically Joharan. Yes, the king of Gildan, Joharan. In the books, Joharan is the one who strips Logain of his lands and titles when he proclaims himself the dragon. So he was the king of Gildan when Logain proclaimed himself dragon, and he was later killed by Masema. So he continued to be the king of Gildan through all of Logain's arc. So this has to be him. The only difference is in the books, he sticks around. He doesn't join Logain, so doesn't die in this battle, and is later killed by Masema. But I'm 100% convinced that this is the king that we do see Masema take out.
Yeah, I agree. And we've also got another picture following up with those 5 Aes Sedai. None of them look like the ones we see in this scene. So, giving us our first impression that the Red Aja is bigger than all of the other ones, just by sheer background implication.
Leandrin is the only one of those two that has those two groups in common.
What does that mean?
Well, so there's a whole nother group of Reds out there that are completely uncounted for. It does mean that maybe that could be Owen, because it doesn't necessarily mean it happened recently.
No, because Moraine and Lan were standing on the cliff right above them, and then go to the two rivers. So it's firmly anchored in the present.
You're right. That downward thing, I think you're right. I think she's creating the downward momentum. Yeah.
I think you're right. I hate it, but I think you're right.
And then what follows is probably the one of the most badass series of channeling fights that we've seen on screen so far. Yeah. All the different channelers, the trees being in the way, the healing. Like, we see so many aspects of battle that come together here, and they did such a good job in showing what I think it would feel like to have Aes Sedai fighting. On one level, maybe 7 Aes Sedai should, or at least 6 Aes Sedai should be way more devastating in battle. I feel like they could just do but it depends on how powerful they are, right? Their most powerful channelers are Moraine, and the 2 that are in the tent guarding Logain, or in the cave guarding Logain.
Yeah.
So.
And these are weaker. Remember, the only ones who are strong enough to shield Logain are a few of them, and Karenni, you can hold back armies. These others are less strong. They're not strong enough to shield Logain. So, yeah, it's I just love getting to see how devastating they were. Of course, we can engineer how they could channel better, but the practical effects plus the CGI, the chaos, the use of the landscape to make things. I really enjoyed this sequence.
Such a good planned battle scene. That was cool. Stop the...
She's like, guard my back. I got to do my thing for a second. And he's like, don't mind me, just catching arrows. It's fine. That's my job.
The Earth, the way they came up through the Earth, clearly channeling Earth.
Which, I mean, that's how it gets described in the books, is like these like little explosions, like little landmines going off or whatever. It's so the way it's described in the books. And I feel like they're using a lot of practical effects to make this work, like real explosions. And then they just add a little sparkles on top. It's just like the Trollocs. They're like, we don't want you to be able to quite tell. We want you to know it's movie magic, but we don't want you to be able to see exactly where the line is.
And behind the scenes stuff ruins that a little bit because you see how much of it is practical. Because you see the raw shots and you see the explosions and you see just how much of that is being done. There's very little difference between the behind the scenes shots and the finalized finished shots.
I love that so much.
Like it doesn't feel like they're even doing a lot of color correcting because this is all shot in the day and just bright light, and they're just like, yeah, this is what it looks like outside.
And it makes the performances so much more believable because the actors are like, oh god, like with Rand and Tam, they had not seen a Trolloc in full getup until they shot that scene. So like the emotion that they're creating in the actors is like that of shock and awe and fear and wonder and like.
And these actors are responding to real explosions and real, there is real danger there.
There's real...
hopefully not real danger, but you know what I mean.
Adrenaline, real leaf litter falling down, real like shots of adrenaline through your system. And people doing weird magic shit. You're like, wow! It's like, oh god, it's so cool. It's just so well done.
All the Nynaeve's braid.
Nynaeve's braid.
I also really like that we're seeing it from Nynaeve's perspective, that she's sort of this confusion of battle. It's the first battle she's ever been in. Well, no, that's not true. Second battle she's ever been in. And just, she is not at all sure what's going on or what she should be doing. Like, takes her forever to pull her knife out.
Yeah, I like that we're in her head and the chaos and the panic and the confusion. She's like, this has happened to me exactly one other time in my life, and it ended very, very badly. So, fuck.
And can we also say Priyanka stole this episode?
Oh my god. Oh, yes. Definitely my favorite character of this episode, just because such an impression.
As Alana.
Oh my god. Just amazing. To everything about her performance, from her channeling, from her dialogue, to her fucking clothes. Oh my god. Yeah, she definitely stole the episode. Good job, Alana. I like how she's terrified and she has a knife the length of her palm, but she will still gut you like a fucking fish. Like, don't actually fuck with her. She's terrified until she's in danger, and then she will kill you. She has two modes. There is no in between. There is no negotiation.
And if she took out a Trolloc, you think she's going to let some, scruffy dragon sworn take her out? I don't think so. Oh my
god, right? She took down a Trolloc in her sacred pool. You are nothing.
That was a bloody couple of scenes right there.
Oh yeah.
Throat slitting, swords through somebody, axes, The melting of the cage is awesome. God. Yeah. It's like, a cage on a channeler. And he's like, let me just
be very melodramatic about this escape moment. And he gets up from having knelt for like however many days without like any like wincing or cramping. He just stands up calmly because he's actually been meditating and channeling this whole goddamn time. And oh my god. The one time she does actually need help, he's like, no, I got you. I'm your warder now.
And this is the low point of the battle for the good guys, right? It looks like they're down.
And then Moraine comes in and is like, let's talk. And yeah.
God, I love the way that melts. God. The way he's just using the one power to just... So good. Where was Moraine the whole time? What has she been doing, and why is she showing up to the cave now? Also, I loved her shadow. Her shoulder pads made her look like she had, like, horns. Or, like, not, like, wings. There was definitely an evil shadow coming around the corner. And I like that from Logain's perspective. It's the evil Aes Sedai coming for him.
And what was she doing? There's so many questions. And even I, as a book reader, I'm like, Moiraine, what the hell are you doing?
So yeah, any ideas about what Moiraine was doing? Just that, like...
She needs to be alone sometimes, sheep herder. I don't know. I really don't. Just taking a big shit, I guess. Like, everyone's got to. And Logain in this cage is very impractical from a sanitation perspective. Let me just point that out.
Well, that's why it's just got bars on the bottom.
So they can douse them with water.
Just rinse it out. Yeah, no, I assume the timing was a little weird based on what was happening outside versus inside, that we've seen more time pass outside than inside, that he broke out pretty much right away, and then Moiraine walked in right after that. Like, she went to check on him the second the army showed up.
That would make a lot of sense. She goes in to confront him, talk to him, delay, knowing that all of the Aes Sedai are running as fast as they can to get here. And all she has to do is wait until she gets some kind of reinforcement. That makes sense. So yeah, she was just out in the woods doing a pencil sketch of the trees or something when everything goes down.
When whatever went down, yeah.
And she gets there first, basically.
Yep, and she walks in, and I think she is 100%. Well, it's like Moiraine. She's always going to do two things at once. She's going to give him a chance to convince her he's the Dragon Reborn, but she's also just stalling him and waiting for Karine and Leandrin to recover or reinforcements to arrive, so she doesn't have to take him on by herself.
Yeah, and I think she's also...
because she knows how powerful he is.
And I think there's also an element of getting information about what is going on, like with respect to what does the Dark know? Why do you think you're the Dragon Reborn? Like, what information can I glean from your situation to help with the actual situation I'm dealing with? Because she believes that he is something important, and she can... what can she learn, right? She doesn't really question if he's a Dragon Reborn, but she does wonder if there's maybe... like, what's going on here? What can I glean anything about how the pattern is breaking down, I think. But yeah, I think it's mostly delaying. But you're right. She's Moiraine. She can't ever do one thing. She has to do at least two things in any given situation.
Notice her flame on her side is a torch that doesn't have a cage around it, and his flames on his sides are.
I didn't! Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, so this was the language that was translated. And that was Lorem Ipsum.
I can't believe that they would flip us the bird like that.
I assume it's just overlooking. That someone just changed the font. They pasted in Lorem Ipsum, changed the font, and just gave that to the set designers. Because it's actually, you can get this font on your computer, which is
really
fun.
You can get Old Tongue
the
font?
Old Tongue font. Yeah,
Nice.
totally. It's just a little font file.
Nice.
Someone created a while, actually a long time ago, when and they've, as far as I can tell, they've been true to the font in the books. They haven't changed it. They just stuck with that straight away.
Someone made them the file already. I mean, why not? Only fix what ain't broke.
Right. Yeah, we don't have much time to talk. Part of me is wondering if she was like, okay, this is if he is the Dragon Reborn, I will support him. If he can convince me in the next 2 minutes that he's the Dragon Reborn, I may go against my sisters.
She would. She absolutely would. If this was Rand and he had the double dragons or whatever, yeah, for sure.
But I think all he does is convince her that he's absolutely insane.
Agreed. And give her more specific anxieties around what happens when she does determine which of the four is the dragon.
And here we have some of the two most talented actors in this show going at it with each other.
And it is good. Sparks are flying, and not of the romantic kind.
Yeah, I was saying you can feel the sparks. Absolutely. What do you think about that? The whispers of 1,000 dragons that preceded me, 1,000 lives. That changes a little bit from Rand, who is just LTT reborn. He just hears Lewis Theron Telamon in his head. Do you think that's going to be the difference between insanity and actual information? Or do you think they're going to change the way Rand gets information? Maybe it's not just LTT.
I'm of two minds, because if the Wheel of Time turns endlessly and this battle keeps happening, there have been thousands of dragons.
And it doesn't make sense why Rand would only get the most recent memories.
Yeah, but if we are considering only the time period of the story, which is 3,000 years, it would make more sense that Logain is hearing all of his past lives and mistaking them for dragons because the corruption, and he's hearing just the fact that his soul has been reborn many, many times, but through this filter of insanity. That's kind of the two camps I'm falling into.
I also am. I feel like there's some uncertainty around what we're doing with the shape of insanity, right? Because in the books, everyone turns insane in their own unique way. Here, the idea that there's someone whispering in your ear appears as the only way we've seen the madness manifest. Someone who doesn't exist talking.
Well, we've only seen one person.
So I'm one.
Who?
Logain and the man in the first scene.
Duh. Right. Yes.
Yeah. And he hallucinated a whole nother person, right? Like, is that person one of his past lives? Like, what are you always hallucinating people, just different kind of people? Like, it's very interesting to see what they're going to do and how they're going to break down the madness for more men in this.
Yeah. I do suspect that they will make it less varied. I think they'll make it less varied between men. It might manifest differently. Like, you hear the voices of someone, but maybe it's your past lives, maybe it's people that you idolized. Like, maybe that's where the variation comes in, is who you hear, but it's always hearing somebody. That would feel efficient to me. But yeah,
rather than having like the spiders and the fades and the shadows and all the various other random,
that's just too much. There's just that's why the books are so long. It's because RJ was able to just keep spinning out ideas, but they've got to be efficient here. But I really want to hear Logain talk more about what he thought he heard before we can really know what's going on.
And I'd like to know if he ever tried to verify the information.
Right.
You know, the way we see Rand do.
Yeah.
I think in that moment she's like, whoa, he's fucking nuts.
Yeah, definitely. And then he goes on to make an argument very similar to what Tam gave us in episode 1. So it's like, this is fundamentally a intelligent, well-meaning, good person who's being warped by something outside of himself because he gets it at the most basic level. This is when she's like, no, you're fucking nuts. Your heart's in the right place, but your logic is actually very unsound. And you have delusions of grandeur because the wheel doesn't want anything. And you need to know that. If you were the dragon, you would know your place in this as Ta'Veren being drug into it. You would not be aggrandizing yourself.
And you're giving agency to something that doesn't have it. Which is insanity. Interesting line. It's the people who want, because I do feel like Moiraine in the books is a little more the wheel weaves as the wheel wills, the Ta'Veren pulls. This happens because the wheel wants it to happen. Like, I do feel like the wheel wants it to happen is something she says. I'd have to go back and check on that, but like the balance that the wheel enforces, it does feel like a desire. Ta'Veren feel like a desire for an outcome.
Yeah, but there's also that really important conversation in The Great Hunt where Egwene gets told by Varen, where Moiraine tells Perrin that that the pattern is not good or evil. In that discussion, I feel like they're trying to express that here, that the pattern does not have a goal as far as how this war goes. The pattern needs balance, but the outcome of the war is not... But it does follow natural rules. Yeah. The pattern doesn't want either outcome. The pattern... It's that weird thing of anthropomorphizing natural physical processes. It's even more fraught than anthropomorphizing animals.
Water wants to flow to the lowest point is something you can say. It doesn't mean the water has a desire. It just means the physical process of water flowing causes it to go, and gravity causes it to go to the lowest points.
And it will find a way. It will find a way. It's not a choice. It is a natural principle, but that's a very useful way to talk about it. And I think that's kind of the territory this is in. It's like, you are implying that the wheel wants the goodness and values and morality, and that is wrong.
It's kind of like standing in the way of a flood, like a broken dam and a raging river, and being like, "Don't worry, the river doesn't want to hurt me. I've seen it go around me before." And it's like, well, yeah, because you were standing on a high point. Like, that's... Yeah. The river doesn't want not to hurt you. It's just...
This reminds me of a discussion that came up in my Aikido classes a lot. That you can have all this power from doing your martial arts stuff. And there's a lot of, people who want to debunk that, whatever. I don't care. It's experiential. But one of the things is part of your power is knowing how to get out of the way of a train. You will not stop a train by having all your martial arts powers organized. You will use your intelligence to move, because that is the smart move. So there's a bit of that also of like, sometimes want and will happen naturally you have to work within the bounds of the situation. Unless you're a Matt. But there's like multiple books spent explaining why that is an exception that's allowed. So this question, what do you want? What does she want?
I mean, at that point, I think she wants to beat him, and she wants the Dragon Reborn the actual Dragon Reborn to be safe. Yeah.
I think he is such a compelling personality that question actually strikes at her core, and she's like, I want to save the world, I guess. But she also wants to, I don't know. I just feel like the charisma of Logain actually makes that question really like hit Moiraine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think it kind of forces her into action, because she has to tell the truth and she doesn't want to tell him what she actually wants. So she has to be like, oh, I want to beat you now. Like, she can't, that's the end of stalling, because she can't lie about why she's there anymore.
Yeah. Agreed.
That is such a well-delivered line. A pinprick against the raging sun that will be the Dragon Reborn. A candle. Which, by the way, what did we see earlier? Rand in a box with a candle, and he's the raging sun behind it. Also, the number of times we've seen sun and then cut to Rand has happened a couple of times. Like, there's definitely references to Rand being the Dragon Reborn in this, and then the raging sun thing.
But her delivery is just... so
oh my god, yeah,
viciously fiery and
and so I do think the three of the strongest Aes Sedai, all shielding him at once, are giving him a problem.
Yes,
I think two of them weren't, but three of them did.
Agreed. He is struggling. He is losing the struggle. His arm is going down in the arm wrestling match as this sequence happens, and it is very much who's going to actually win out, and he doesn't know. He's uncertain now. He's on the defensive now. And then he goes on the offensive, and it's sad.
So he does a Nynaeve. He throws a chair, basically.
Of power,
and it's still the one power, but he definitely uses a physical attack to try and stop them from shielding him. The metaphysical attack. Yeah,
he's like, if I can hurt them and startle them, they'll drop their attention. And it's a good move. I mean, it almost works. For sure.
If Kareen wasn't being such a badass battle mage.
Oh man, I have so many, it's such a battle Aja move in general, as well as she's the captain general, right? It is her job to protect other Aes Sedai and protect the world from men who can channel by preserving the Aes Sedai. It's such a captain general move on her part.
Yeah. And people asking, how did they see the attack coming if she can't see the weaves? Well, she saw it pushing through the shield. So the shield was distorting where those spikes were coming out. So she shielded in front of that space. Also, just maybe, knowing a shield is a good thing. He was about to throw an attack. Just reading his body language.
Yeah, and I mean, the way that he's scrambling to get through, it's... And you see the shield distorting. They can feel... that's happening, and Kareen is able to focus on two things at once, which is the safety of her sisters as well as Logain, and she sacrifices herself because all three of them going out is bad, and these are two very strong Aes Sedai that need to be protected for the strength of the tower.
And there is that hope that if she can protect them and they take him down, one of them could then heal her, right?
Right, or
Moiraine's
a delaying tactic, right? Seconds count at this point for the other Aes Sedai to arrive.
And I see that feels very slow motion to me, where she like has that realization that he's going to kill all three of us and I have to do something about it.
And they don't get to go to her. They have to stand there and just watch it happen. It's so tough.
And like knowing if they stop, they could go heal her right away, you know, but
they choose not to because
they know he like broke out with two of them. He could certainly break out with one.
Yeah. And then he gets into an actual staring match with Leandrin.
Steppen feeling his Aes Sedai die.
Yeah. And he goes into this fugue and then he gets attacked and immediately makes mincemeat out of his attacker and then goes back into a fugue. He goes into like depression and battle mania, like flip-flopping back and forth. I feel so bad for him.
Super low moment. Kareen has died. Logain's broken out.
Logain's breaking out.
Chaos.
And then, one of the Reds is getting shot.
Arrows are coming.
Like, it's total chaos. They're not making any forward progress. They're stalled on the battlefield.
And then Steppen goes berserk. And that turns the tide.
Well, not really.
Sorry, not Steppen.
Yeah.
Alana.
Yeah, Alana is like, all right, bitches, sleeves up. Like, let's go. I love how you see the explosion go out in the ground. The little detonator line, but it's got the power. It's so good.
And clearly that was, Alana being as powerful. She is the most powerful Aes Sedai out there, right? Because she's the only other one powerful enough to hold Logain.
So she is the most powerful Aes Sedai on the battlefield. Yeah. Yeah. And she can turn armies.
Exactly. Because the other
Karenni
three
can turn armies. Alana's on her level. Alana's turning an army. Yes.
Exactly. So this makes sense for her to really be the last one, like putting up the final defense while everyone gets out and runs away.
And she has two warders who can protect her and watch her back. So she's got the best odds of getting out after she does this thing. Yeah.
So I mean, she really is, other than Karenni, the most powerful battle. Which makes sense as the green, right? She's got the two warders. She's got the...
We're seeing much more battle Aja energy coming, competent battle Aja than we ever saw in the damn books. So thank you, Ray, for making the green Aja effective at their damn job.
Finally.
I love that look.
But it was yeah.
That picture of her.
It's also why I don't think Nynaeve could ever be green.
No, she needs to kill more deliberately. If she's going to kill, she needs to do it more deliberately.
And she's more about the healing than the killing as well.
Yeah. There's that line about she has to be able to take life as well as give it. And that's a whole wisdoms thing. But yeah, I don't think she's into the blowing up everybody thing. That's Egwene's job. And Elaine's. Oh.
And so, that's a bit of a mini tragedy in this episode where we get introduced to the King of Gillidan. He's noble, and then he goes over to the cause and then loses his life.
He did such a good performance
that he's doing the right thing.
on having this one episode. I was very compelled by his whole story.
Totally. His motivations all make sense, and yet he ends up on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta toss the dice or whatever.
And he also is a stand-in for all the nobles that then become loyal to Rand later on. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, you see where that motivation comes from. I like his ring, too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Just his costume design is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love her face illuminating. It's so cool.
Yeah. And so it definitely gives us sort of a preview of what it's going to look like for someone to burn out.
We know now that it is an option.
That just gets brighter. Yeah.
And what it will look like and how it might come about.
And you made it sound, you were like, oh, this noble sacrifice of her means I doubt she's a dark friend. I just think she's so full of hate.
No, I'm not saying I doubt she's a dark friend. I'm saying that this puts doubt in my faith that she's a dark friend. Dark friends don't do self-sacrifice. I fully believe she is, but this is so out of character that it shakes my confidence. Dark friends are selfish. To kill someone is a high priority, yes. And it makes more sense that she's trying to kill Logain on orders from the dark, but it's just selflessness in dark friends is not what I expect.
I don't see it as selflessness. I see it as just pure hate. like, yeah, I'll take you down. I don't care if I'll die going down with you. It's just her hate is so intense of men, and especially men who can channel.
The top priority. It's weird to see a dark friend that's not acting from a selfish place first. That's what's weird to me. I mean, and again, if we think of her as very red, then the hatred of men channeling and the desire to take him down from a red perspective on top of... it's just surprising to have selfishness not be the driving motivator. It's just jarring. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that jar. It's just, I think especially for viewers, I don't think she comes across as Black Aja yet.
No, not necessarily. Just, she comes across more Alida-like. Selfish and power hungry and full of hatred, but not necessarily. And you know, yes, for the Forsaken, selfishness is the most important trait, but I think the other Dark Friends have other motivations. The selfishness is the most important, but I think hatred is second only to selfishness when it comes to the Dark Friends. Like, the desire to wipe somebody out, the desire to kill somebody, can turn you to the dark side of, you know, turn you towards the Dark One. Yeah, you're right. That was a comment made specifically about Forsaken from Varen, so... yeah, hate is a good gateway to that, I guess. Yeah. And this is how you can tell he's in water rage, because if he was thinking clearly, he would not have gotten the whole room fucking killed. Right. Like, this was such a bad So a couple
move.
of things. Yeah. The leap was actually more realistic in the show than it looked in the previews. Because even though he gets very horizontal, his feet come down very quickly. He actually doesn't go that far. So it's a very athletic looking leap, but in the still, but in the video, it looked totally normal to me. Yeah, we see the rage. Interesting, the rage only happens once he sees her dead body, not necessarily. I think he has to realize what happened. Like, he knows she's dead, but he doesn't know why at first. And so he puts it together. Right, there's the shock has to work through. Yeah. But as soon as he has a target, then the rage is able to be unleashed. And then I don't think the axes are interfering with the shield here.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
If you look under where I am, I'm going to take us off for a second. You can see it's passed through, and yes, it's highlighted it, but it's not destroying the shield. It's actually caught on his weaves of blackness. I think if he wasn't channeling, the axe would have killed him. Agreed. I didn't think that at first. At first, I was very frustrated, and then slow it down, see what's happening, and then it's like, oh, okay. That makes more sense. Logain catches it right at his neck, which is right about where the shield is. By coincidence, there's two threats coming at him at the same time, and they're equally close to him. He's blocking them in different ways. But I think what the axes do is provide a passage for his power to get outside the shield. They don't break the shield, but they do penetrate it. So whereas he couldn't have, we saw with the spikes, in order to attack, they had to get through the shield. They had to, the shield stretched and then popped. Here, he's able to pass through the shield without alerting the Aes Sedai that anything is happening. Because the axe is touching him, he can affect the axe is outside of the shield. Yes. And that's why this becomes a threat. Yeah. The look he gives Stepan is like, oh, you fucked up, boy. Moraine getting stabbed repeatedly. Poor woman. What? That thing in her side, what is that? Shaft. Oh, that's the shaft. I first thought it was a table leg, but no, it's the shaft with the head completely blown off. Same. Got it. That makes more sense. And I could not believe this. I was in shock. Lan getting his throat. I was like, I did not see that. You aren't doing that. You can't do that. You can't. I was dead. I was so dead. The second his throat was slit, I was like, oh, Nynaeve's gonna I knew, because we already saw Nynaeve wasn't hurt. So I was like, okay, Nynaeve's gonna heal him. And then maybe she'll be able to heal, I was like, okay, but a bunch of other people are probably going to die from this, right? Like, maybe Lan will come back, and then he'll say, heal Moraine, and she'll come back, and, a couple others. But, I didn't... This, to me, was like, oh, they can't kill Lan. clearly. So she has to heal him. And since his throat is slit, you have 0 time to
it just all went so fast. I couldn't think through that because I was so stunned by the visuals my first time. I was just like, I can't think fast enough to figure out how this is going to resolve. No!
Yeah, the second this scene, I was like, oh, she's going to heal him. Like, that was my thought the second he went down.
Nice.
Is like, we're going to see Nynaeve healing. That was absolutely the first thing that crossed my mind.
Very cool.
Again, brutal.
Oh, God.
And they linger.
Disgusting.
And we're lingering. And Nynaeve, I guess she was probably just around the corner slightly, or just in the back, so most of the other bodies protected her.
She was at the back of the group and just got lucky. And yeah, probably most of the other shrapnel was taken up by other bodies. Probably the one meant for Lan, like... Or the one meant for her, Lan took it with his jugular. Yeah, as soon as this happened, I was like, oh, okay, we're good. We're fine. And she says no. I'm like, we're good. We're good.
Okay, so she's illuminated from inside, so we see her pulling in a ton of power. I also like the way the weaves coming off of her kind of look like the weaves coming off of him, sort of the tendrils that come up and out and over. The explosion. And I firmly believe that she explodes in light here. That we're seeing 2 things. We're seeing weaves, but we're also seeing her explode in light. And light is a very physical, real thing that anyone can see. Logain can see it. Everyone else in the room can see it.
And there's air movement because of her hair blowing out. Like, it makes sense that there is light happening as well as this obvious wind that's happening. And there's you can see light illuminating off of the walls, off of Moraine's wound. Like, there is very much a physical property of light happening. For sure. And Logain is just like, oh, shit. Like, he just loses the power in sheer shock at what's happening. She has no time for him, but she effectively stops him anyway.
But yeah, those tendrils look great.
It's the power being used on a whole other level from what the Aes Sedai do.
Right. And I see the weaves, right? But that I don't think he's seeing the weaves. I think he's the light and the weaves are 2 separate things.
She's glowing like a sun, and anyone who can channel can see this explosion of threads and weavings, and he's just seeing this big glowing supernova.
And I'm curious, we don't see anyone else's shielding their eyes or moving, but let's see if anyone else is blinded. No, she seems... Although there is a bit of looking into the light type situation,
She's off to one side of her face. She's not looking straight at it. She's coming from the side. So
I'm just giving that some lighting, whatever. That's just lighting her so she's not flat white. Because if they did it from the front, the way she's looking, her whole face would just be a flat white.
But she looks like she's looking at Nynaeve, and she's not blinded. She's not shielding her eyes. She's not squinting. She's staring in amazement. I also love that her scream is distorted. Like, the way it goes on and echoes and gets bigger and bigger. It's just the most epic scream. And then they turned it up to 11 with extra magic. And oh, God. And then Logain is like, I just peed a lot. Help.
I do think Liandrin looked a little... I'm not sure if she was squinting or just terrified.
I think she's getting it... She just got stabbed in the shoulder. She's looking over, and now there's sand probably blowing in her eyes with all that air movement, and it's bright. And I think she's just squinting at the general situation because she doesn't know it's just over her shoulder, right? She doesn't see it. He's about ready to swear to her as the dragon right there.
Oh yeah.
If she said I'm the dragon,
he's definitely
would kneel. Right then, right there.
Totally. And the thing is, she's not. She's not. Right? Rand is supposed to be more powerful.
Again, the delusions of grandeur lead him to incorrect conclusions.
Mm-hmm. But I see Nynaeve and Rand as on a similar power level. If they're gonna equalize men and women in the show, which they appear to be doing, but I don't have I'm not sure about that. But it does appear that Nynaeve might be on a similar level with Rand, which would make sense when they go to cleanse the source.
Yeah, agreed.
See, Liandrin, immediate right back to hate.
Well, I think that's a red thing.
No wonder at...
She's focused on the dangerous animals. She'll wonder later. That's how I see it. I mean, Moraine goes right for it.
Yes. But Liandrin, link with me. This is the first evidence we have of links and circles.
And I love that they all have the same, because they all have their own physicality for their own channeling, but if you link, you all do the same thing. Love it.
And I love... Love it. And I love the way we see the power flowing through her, out through the hands, and then to Leandrin, right? That Leandrin is pulling the power through each of her other sisters, like they're Angreal.
Yeah, and there's some extra stuff in the bonus content for this scene where they talk about how if you're linking, you need one sister to direct it. So, yeah.
And this would be 8 Aes Sedai.
Yeah, and God, the weaves look so cool.
Don't they?
Oh my
Yes,
God.
they
And
do.
I looked at look on Alana's face where she's like, clearly we're gentling him right now, but my doubts about gentling the Dragon Reborn are still in the back of my head. What the fuck are we doing? I don't have a choice to talk.
Also, Leandrin decides to gentle
And they all
him.
defer to her.
Everyone else could be
instantly.
like, but they can't stop her. Because at this point, she, like, just link with me, she could be saying, I'm just going to shield him. Everyone who linked with her could be thinking it was just
Well, they
to
all
shield
give
him
her
again.
that extra boost at the end, though. I think they decide to all defer to the Red because the situation has clearly spiraled out of control and their leader has been killed. See how his tears stay suspended in the air? And his hair looks luxurious.
Oh my God. So that explosion of angel wings, what's coming out of him there? His connection to the divine?
Something like that. It's uncorking this vital part of him, and now his soul has flowed out. It's so sad. And like on the one hand, it's taking all the black stuff out, and that's the taint, and that's good. But
That's the question. Is that going to cure his madness? Because it didn't in the books.
I don't think it will here. I do not think so, but it's still just, and her look of vindication and righteous wrath is just like, oh,
The righteous
you're
anger.
a mean person.
Yes. They did good with this actress.
Yeah.
That actually is a good question. Do we have any evidence that stilling stops the madness?
No, we have
the
evidence that it
books?
doesn't. It stops the progression of more madness, but the damage that's been done continues to be done.
We saw that with the cleansing, but what about with actual stilling?
Oh,
We're not, because Loghain's the only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because we never see we never see gentling in that way.
So I do think I remember, if I'm not deceiving myself, back early in the podcast, we talked about maybe part of the reason Loghain doesn't go insane is the gentling not only halted the madness, but it may have actually reset the counter.
Yeah, I bet it doesn't reset the counter, but I mean, it makes sense that it would stop progressing worse.
Is Loghain healed before or after the taint is cleansed?
Before he's restored before.
And he's definitely got some insanity in the last battle. Like, he thinks about his insanity being his ambition.
And his paranoia. It's definitely like a dictator complex kind of thing that he's got going on. But like, can you blame him after what he's been through? He makes good friends with his madness.
And it makes sense to me the madness is something that is left on your soul. Whether or not you have a connection to channel anymore, it's still inside of you. It's past that bridge that Nynaeve reconnects.
He just lost everything.
Yes, he did. And there's no coming back from that. It's like being dead and knowing you're dead.
He lost his army, his belief in himself as the dragon, and the one power, all in like 5 minutes. He's a dead man walking now for all intents and purposes. He has nothing to live for. There's a quote in chat that confirms what we're saying. The victim has to live with whatever he's gotten to that point and be grateful it won't get worse. That is the word of RJ. And Lan's like, I should be dead right now.
That shot.
She's so good. God, she's so good.
Love that shot.
Her face.
And how awesome are the braids with her hair?
I know. It's just... I love that her braid is as much a character as she is. They're really leaning into that. The very interesting thing I found here in the bonus content is I'm pretty sure this is her first time channeling. I was not sure, but the bonus content strongly suggests this is the first time she channeled, which is she's too old for her first touching. What the fuck? Like,
It implies that she hasn't been channeling. Well, what it implies that she's been listening to the wind, which is something that channelers do. Yeah, that's weird.
The bonus content says that that the first time is going to be in a time of desperation, and whatever your first time is, here's a lore change. Whatever your first weave is likely to be a special talent for you if you live through the experience of your first touching. So Nynaeve healing in an explosive burst of anger and getting everyone in arm's reach is a special talent she has in the books. So I don't like the idea that this is the first time she channeled, given that she's been wisdom for 6 years.
Right. And has been listening to the wind and has been,
But I could believe that this is the first time she, channels without herbs or channels without thinking she's doing something else. I mean, for sure. The idea that her first touching is at 26 after her career so far, I just I don't know.
I don't read that the same way at all.
Cool.
Actually, I don't read that. Yes, I do read that, this is directly from the books, right? It can be as monitoring to hear a conversation or as mages wanting to save a life. All those things are true. I don't think any of that implies that this is Nynaeve's first time channeling. Okay, well, we'll see. I'm really hoping they give us clarification, because I do not like the implications I'm reading in that text. And I want you to be right, but I don't think you are. But I hope that when we see her and Moraine talking in the tower, as we apparently will be in a couple of hours, I'm really hoping we get some of that sort of exposition. Do you realize how dangerous what you just did is? Or do you know what I've been doing this whole time? And we get that kind of conversation to fill in, because the lore could be written by someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, and they fucked up. And that's where my confusion's coming from. These are written by Sarah Nakamura, as far as I can tell.
I need more information.
Yeah. And for me, that's one of those things where I've noticed that these are much more from the book's perspective. They tend to be much more book lore-ish. And this is and that's why I don't necessarily think they imply anything about as much, right? I think mostly it's sort of the way the old movies don't necessarily, the animated movies about the old lore don't necessarily affect yes, that's the lore, but that's not going to change what they do in the show. So I don't know. I would be very interested to see if people thought that was, if it turned out that was her first time channeling ever. That would be weird to me. She's too old. She's been the wisdom for a long time. She supposedly looks younger, right? Moraine was like, "Oh, you only look like you've had your braid for a year or two." And she's like, "No, it's been 5." So she's been slowed. All those things seem to be true. And it would be weird to me if that was her first channeling. But it did have that breakthrough, explosive moment that seems to be something that is, oh my God, I've never done this before. But at the same time, healing many people, maybe she's been practicing by healing one at a time. I clearly cannot pick the poison in front of you.
Yeah, it's that situation. But yeah, I think with that, at 2.5 hours, we have finished the episode.
Yes.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us for part 2 of episode 4. That was a lot. I have no idea when this is going to come out, but you'll appreciate it
as soon as I can make
regardless of when it comes out, hopefully. Is there anything else?
And we have an hour before episode 5 drops.
Yeah, so remember to like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, eat your vegetables. You can follow us on all the social media. We have a podcast that you can catch up on.
Drink water, gird your loins, herd your sheep, smooth your skirts, fold your arms under your breasts, and give a sniff.
Pour yourself a drink for the fact that this show, it's in an hour. Oh my god. Let's close this down and go. Bye.
Okay, all right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?